Hello! Welcome back to All Gathered Up, the show that goes into detail of all the techniques and skills that perhaps appears on the Great British Sewing Bee every week. And we do that because we have more time, and as you know, we can do it because we've got Carol Elaine, Master Tailor Couturier, with us to guide us through. Good to see you again, Carol.
Hi, Stuart. How's it going?
It's going really well, and it's going really well for our show, hopefully. We've upped our technology. We've had a guru in to come and help us. So Carol's sound should be perfect, smooth and buttery. And the iPhone, should we just have a quick chat and change the camera? Look at that.
Let's have a
Look at
look
the
at that.
look at the
Oh,
the
fantastic.
crispness of that. There's no pixelating whatsoever. So
Oh, we
really
really have upped the game.
so I'm pleased. Hopefully we can show all our viewers some good demos and pass on more skills and techniques and experience from you. So what have we got? We've got week 3, West Africa week. Lots of things came up. I actually really enjoyed it as an episode. It was a refreshing change. How about you, Carol? What did
I
you think?
no, I really enjoyed it. I think it there was a real test for the contestants this week because they were working with different fabrics. This hand
Mm.
woven fabric that they were given to use, that can be very tricky because and I've got a small piece of fabric here. I don't know if we can switch to camera to camera here
Absolutely. To
because
Carol Cam.
um, yeah, Carol Camp. Now, let's see. How can I get that
Oh, that's
very...
perfect.
Okay, so, right. Now, this is a piece of hand-woven silk. And what you notice is that the fibers go from thick to thin. So the weave itself can be quite wavy, and the quality of the individual, the warp in your weft fibers, they can go from thick to thin. Um, it's awkward because the needle can get stuck in places, um, and when you make a seam and you press it open, it's everything goes wavy. It's a different texture to
Mm.
sew. It's something that I'm sure the contestants just weren't used to. But on the other side of the coin, this kind of fabric can be quite forgiving, if you know what I mean, because the weave is very loose, so you can ease in things
Oh, I
easier.
see.
It's easier to ease, and then when you press it out, it does, things do press out easier. So it's a mixed blessing with these. Kind of difficult to sew, difficult to line up, difficult to find your straighter grain, but then on the other hand, it's quite forgiving. So
Ah,
I would just say that
okay.
much about using that fabric, that hand woven fabric from Ghana, I believe it was. So, but really exciting.
Yeah, I loved it, and it was lovely having the guest judge and hearing her
Mm-hmm.
and her critiques and her sort of her criteria was coming in. I know we've had a chat about
Mm-hmm.
that before many times over the years. We're like, where's this criteria, and how is the criteria changing halfway through? Well, that's how it came across. But with this
Yeah.
one, she was like, nope, I'm judging this and this and this, and it was clear, and that was refreshing, really, really enjoyable. Okay, then, well, let's go straight into it and let's have a look at our all gathered up focus then that you've given us.
Mm-hmm.
Go days and preparing awkward corners and points. Where would you like to start, Carol?
Well, I think we'll start it with the Godet,
Okay.
and we'll explain it. It's a shape, a triangular shape, um, point at the top, and then varying fullness, and that shape gets set into a straight seam.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
I, I, I know these from watching Strictly, and they talk about go days a lot. But I think I know its purest form was the girls at school wanting to put something in their trousers to pull out the bottom, and they would put
Yeah.
in a lovely triangular coloured patch like in their denim jeans. So that's where I've seen a basic go day, which is what it's
Right.
doing, I presume, isn't it?
It's adding volume.
Yeah.
It's adding volume. And in the first challenge, we saw that it was it was just a straight triangle. It was slim. It
Yeah.
didn't add a lot of volume, but they had, I think, three in the front and three in the back. So
Yeah.
add that up. it was, it looked to me like it was maybe 3 or 4 inches per godet, and it was very straight. The sides of the triangle were straight. I'm going to show you 2 different godets. We're going to sew one, and then I'm going to show you a different shape of a godet that puts a bit more flounce in and gives the overall volume a different look.
Okay, let's go for it then. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to camera.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I want to say about the godet is know your seam allowance. Okay? Now, I hope everyone can see this, but I'm sewing this godet in at 1/4 inch. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm marking the seam allowances. Really, you want to concentrate on the point. That's what you want to get right. You can see that I've sewn one side and I've stopped at the point. When I marked off the seam allowances, I used a straight tool. So I used a tool that I use all the time. It's this Pattern Master. You can pick this up at many outlets. And I made sure that I had a straight line to mark the seam allowances. So I did it on that side, and then I flipped it around, and then I prepared just a small line on this side as well. But it's important to have a straight line. Okay? So that's done. I'll put that down. And then I've sewn one side of the godet. Okay? So we're there, and you see you have this triangle thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Side.
I have that in patchwork a lot.
Oh, right. So you don't always sew squares. Sometimes you're sewing at 90 degree or 45. Okay. All right. So I'm doing my garment is in light pink and my godet is in dark pink. Okay?
Brilliant.
So I'm going to sew that second side. Now you can start wherever you'd like. You can start down here at the bottom. As long as you have everything prepared, you'll be fine, and then that matches up to that. So what I'm going to do I'm going to start with this side. Now, I don't have any markings. I don't have any information here. But I'm going to kind of do this by feel. Okay? So I've got 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going from the edge of my presser foot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm using. Okay, so, and I'm going to use this under here just to do it by feel. Now, I know I started by saying draw out your seam allowances. This is very important. But you can also do it by feel. And you know where the point is. When you match this all up, you know by eye that you're going to stop.
Yeah.
Right there. Now, do you ever do that in patchwork? Do you ever do it just by feel?
I do. In patchwork, it's called nesting the seam. And you can feel, because you've got that bump there and the way the fabric folds, you can kind of lock it in with your thumb. Yeah.
So there we are. And then all you have to do then is just sew this seam. And now you've got, you're sewing right to that point. So just make sure that this is this flap, this triangle, which then goes quite steep at the end.
Yeah.
Right? So just make sure that's out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead. The same principle kind of applies when you're sewing it in a concealed zip. It's about the same thing. You sew one side, and you sew the second side, and then you join the two together, usually from the bottom up. So you've got this indicator right here.
That's where you stopped on the seam before, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I stopped on the seam before, and now I'm just going to sew right.
So you've just sewn down, so join them together. So you've sewn to the top of the mountain, as it were.
That's right, the top of the mountain, and there you go. Now, I'm not going to press that out at all, but you see to help you out, really, it's mark these seams, understand what you're doing is you're sewing into a point.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got your one side of the triangle, your second side of the triangle, and then you're joining that point up into whatever the design lines are for the rest of the garment. Okay? Now, what I wanted to show you is I wanted to show you the pattern for this, which is that. Okay?
Yeah.
very straight. Seam allowances are marked. Notches are put in place just to help you line things up. So that is just a basic triangular godet. Okay, it just adds in a little bit of room. Now I want to show you another one.
Okay.
The pattern looks like this.
Oh, it's
You
like
see how,
a
yeah, see
fleur
how
de lis
curvy
sort
it is?
of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Same point there, but we're sweeping out and we're
Yeah.
making it much more fluid. And here's the finished product. Now,
Oh,
it's
wow.
prettier, isn't it? And it gives you these trumpets.
Just bring it towards you so we can see the bottom bit. Oh,
Yeah,
look at that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so all it is taking your pattern and just revising it from this to this.
Your fluted pattern, is the bottom still straight, or did you curve? Oh, yes, you curved
I
it at the
curved
edge.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
look, I've got.
I
Oh, I've
curved
got
it
this
at the
new
bottom.
thing. Look, watch this. Look there on my
There
screen.
you are. Yeah,
So you
excellent.
curved it a little, and then it is straight. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you would do is you would just mark from your point. Just see, mark from your point all the
Oh, I see.
way
Yeah.
along. Okay, just mark that along. You can style it however you want it, but I wanted to show you the difference in the patterns and how you can make a different effect. So when this all goes together, you've got a little bit more action, much more volume, and
Yes.
it dances about. You see that?
So that's
There's a lot more
ideal for a
movement.
nice bouncy skirt, isn't it? A short
It
skirt, so
is.
you get
Yeah.
this pleaty, what do you call it, funnily sort of
Yeah,
rippling effect.
trumpety effect, you see?
Yeah,
And then you can if you put your curve in the wrong, you know,
yeah,
if it goes below your hem, then you can always correct that by, let's say this is the top, let's say this is a waistline. Then you just measure from here down and just correct everything so that it's all level. But I wanted to show everybody that, just to show you, how you can build in more
yeah.
volume and
What
shape
if
and
you
more
hold
fun.
that upwards? Hold that up. Can we see it flop and? Oh, yay! See, look at that. Now, imagine that as a skirt. Yes, all that body and that movement that you're going to get from
Yeah,
that ripple.
that's right. Yeah, a lot more action.
And
It's a
if
lot
that
more interesting
and
than
if
this one.
that triangle was even bigger, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, or 4 ripples in there, aren't
That's
you?
right. Let's go back to the pattern. Let's go back to the pattern. So you could on the fold, let's say, and draft your pattern on the fold so that
Yeah.
you're symmetrical. But you could come from your point. You could come way out.
Yeah. And then you're going to get, it's like a bottom of the curtain where you get those, those just where it goes in and out, in and out, in and out. And that would be really
You're going to get a
dramatic.
lot of
That's
you're going to
it.
get a lot of
Yes.
undulating
Yeah.
trumpets.
Yeah. Like that sort
So,
of
so
effect.
that's that. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with your Godets, and you can build in a lot of volume. What we saw today, it was very contained, and they did say that this was simplified version, didn't they?
Absolutely. I mean, let's while we're here, let's just have a quick flick to them. We might as well. Let's just
Mm.
go to this and have enjoy looking at some of them there. So that's fauves, for example.
Mm-hmm. You can see how if you chose a bold dominant stripe, how it confuses the stripe with putting the
Absolutely.
Godets in, and where you cut them in that pattern in the stripe has an effect. You can see.
Yes, because I'm presuming is the Godet in that bit there? Is that
That's
up?
it.
It
Yep,
looks like it's
that's
there.
it. Yeah.
Um, and that's fauves. Let's have a look at oh, that's the top of asthmas because they had to make the fabric first, didn't they, out of strips and sew those strips together.
That's correct. And now you can see horizontally how things get a little bit confused.
Absolutely.
She has done very well with centering her point. the center front where she sewed her point falls right in the middle of that blue stripe,
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
brilliant, isn't
She's
it?
done a really nice job.
Let's go now to just choosing some random ones. Oh, let's clear that. That's
Yeah.
Matthews, and
This, I really like this pattern.
yeah,
I really like the colors in this. But again, where the Godets are, you can see that dominant white stripe is kind of
yeah. It kind of
changing. Yeah,
it does, doesn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then there, I liked Lauren's just because I like the color combo. It was pink, classic navy and pink, which I think
Oh,
worked really
yes.
well. But
Yeah,
I think you
very
can
nice.
see. Can you see there? Is that the Godet there? I think some
Yep,
had
that,
Godets at different heights, and I think is that one there.
yeah.
I think
I really would have liked to have seen this pattern. I mean, I say this every week, but I don't know how, I just like to read the pattern to see how that happens. Why are
it was
some,
a challenging pattern, wasn't it? I think I've got
yeah,
here. Um, where is it? This is the picture of the pattern they gave. Now, when you think there's, I think there was there three? Let's just check how many hours they had. Did I write it down? No, 3 or 4 hours. I thought there were a lot of skills demanded for this. Not only have you got to sew the fabric together, you then got to put the godets in. Then you've got to do the neck, which I know we'll talk about in a little while. But then you've got to do the pockets as well. It's an awful lot of skills out of that
yeah,
time. It's a big project.
yeah,
And this was simplified as well, wasn't it?
yeah. There was a lot going on here, and I think it's very challenging. And they slotted this in, and it was ended up being a very demanding challenge, and things probably they hadn't ever seen before. Putting
Absolutely.
normally you have a front facing and a neck facing and a shoulder seam. This was you just had a flat piece of fabric, which we're going to look at later, and then you sewed your neck edge in, and then you cut out the difference. So the shoulder line is very kimono-esque, where you just there was no
Yes.
shoulder seam. It's a very long presentation that you just folded in half. That ended up the shoulder line.
And
The
let's just
pockets
take.
were also very
Oh,
tricky to
yes.
put in as well, because
Weren't they?
yeah, and so
Not a
the
normal way of
inside the
doing
pocket,
pockets.
no,
Let's take a look at the
and not
group there.
yeah,
Now, some looked a bit more fuller at the bottom and a bit more where the Godets really sort of were poignant, were really fluting
really
out.
fanned
Could you
out,
use that?
fanned out, yes, fanned
And I
out,
think that I
and
think they said that
depends
for
on the
Tony's. His seemed to stand out more at the front because he perhaps positioned the neck wrong, so it made the front ride up a bit.
yes, yes, that's true, that's true. So there, yes, the back balance was uneven,
Yeah.
and so yes, it fell back and kicked out in the front.
But I did
Yes,
feel for some of them here because some of them had pockets, one low down and one high up, and some had pockets. I think, like poor old Matthew had pockets almost right under the arm. So the measurements were there. I think some, as like I would have done. I'm just going to do it by eye.
yeah. Well,
um,
if you go back to the pattern, the pockets are right under the arm.
let's have a
If
look.
you go if you go back to the
Oh yeah.
pattern, you
Oh, they
see,
are.
see that yes, and so well, the problem here is, oh, the problem could be here not marking, and that fabric is difficult to mark.
Yes.
You have
Yeah.
to. I would say you almost have to put a tailor tack in because you got a lot of different colors going on, and we talked about
Yeah.
the confusion of the pattern in the cloth, in the woven cloth. So you have to mark. You've got to mark exactly where that neck point needs to be.
Yeah.
And you have to mark
Well,
where the
that's
pockets. And if you don't, see,
Yeah, well, that's interesting because Patrick was saying the pockets needed to be in the center of the arm and the hem. So they were
no,
being judged with there. But when you look at that drawing, it looks like it's under the arm.
absolutely, because
Oh,
it's got quite a deep armhole.
it has, doesn't it? Yeah, well, maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's
And
even
I
longer.
heard a comment. I heard a comment. And I had to go back. That's why I wanted to see the pattern again because I heard a critique that said, "Oh, those pockets are of no use. They're too high."
Well, that was with Matt, so I'll show you a picture. Excuse me. There. So there's Matt's arm, but actually the pocket,
Yeah,
by the looks of the diagram, is in the right
he's
place, is
done
it
it.
not?
Yes, absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
I didn't see that before when I was talking with Ting, because I remember Patrick saying it needs to be the arms there, the hems there, the pocket should be there. Well, so they are. That's interesting. So and I
Therein
think
lies a problem.
asthma, you could just see that. Oh, where's the group one? Let's go back to the group one again. Um,
Yeah.
pardon me for a jump. Yes, you can see asthma. Is that asthma's pocket there?
Yes. So again,
Oh no,
so
that's
that's
not
an
asthma. Sorry, that's
right.
Mia's. Beg your pardon. No,
Okay.
there's
So
asthma's. That is halfway.
yes, halfway down.
I
So
think you're
that's
right.
that.
There's
That.
clearly confusion there, isn't there?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, from the drawing, and that's something that should come out in that graphic, because if the contestants are looking at that, let's say they've cut the pattern out, and where's the reference?
Yeah,
They've lost the reference, haven't they? So
yeah,
then they go to the picture and say, well,
yeah.
what does the picture say? Um,
That's it. That's what they've done. That is
yeah.
exactly what they've done,
Yeah.
Carol. And then, yeah, got caught out with that. Oh, brilliant. All right. Well, they are. That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
that's a quick look at those. And that's Godet's covered then. So what about this? Yeah, the preparing the awkward corners and the points and the neck, I think it was, wasn't it?
Do you want to go over that now?
Yeah, yeah. If
I'll
you're happy with
get my
that,
sample out.
go
Okay.
over to Carol Cam.
Let's go to Carol Camp, and I think you want me to be positioned and talk about in this area, don't you?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Does that look okay, Stuart? Can you see
Yeah, just pull it a bit
that
towards you.
toward me? Okay.
That's it,
So
perfect.
here's our point. I did this quite fast. Here's our point. Here's our neck edge.
Yeah,
This is the center back. This is the center front. Now I want to talk about two things, because the first thing that I saw them doing is I saw them pressing this edge in, and they were just kind of eyeballing it, right?
yeah.
Can you? Is this clear, Stuart?
It's absolutely
So
crystal. The graphics are
okay,
perfect.
lovely. I'm so glad. So the what the aim here is to first of all press under a centimeter or a half
Okay.
inch. I don't know what the seam allowance is. So to give me a head start, and this doesn't take long, preparation is everything when
Yeah.
you've got a tricky technique to get through. So I first of all I sewed a centimeter around. So now if you're just going to stand at the iron, you're going to press this around because you've got this guideline.
So
Now what happens
so sewing that guideline is going to help straight away. Yeah,
straight away?
yeah,
Okay. Now, when you get around to this kind of awkward junction and you end
Yeah.
up with pleats and all, and and you're in a hurry because this is all timed and this goes wayward, and what do you do? I'm going to suggest that you, on a very big stitch, sew another guideline of about a 16th of an inch or eighth of an inch, and then you simply pull this. Draw some of this in, okay, so that when you go to find your guideline, everything just falls into place.
Oh,
See, and even that awkward corner, that awkward curve, when you're at the pressing unit, it'll all just feed in on its own. Can you see that?
I can. Yeah.
Do it. Another one here. So this is a larger curve, but it's kind of a rounded square. So let's take this.
Oh, let's move me so I can look.
Yep. I'm trying to.
So you've got that extra.
Yeah. So now what I've done, now see that's riding up now. It's
Oh, wow.
practically trying to turn over on itself. Okay. So then when you go to the pressing board and you've got this guideline and this one, that's where you want to do it. And you can use pins like this. You know, what I'm doing now, Stuart, it's not taking a long time. It's
No,
saving
it's
time.
not.
It's saving time. So just another trick, okay? Make a guideline, and then in order to take in some of that awkward fullness, just sew yourself another guideline, just close to the edge, and then draw that in.
And that guideline, are you going to leave it in, or are you going to rip it out? I say, do you put a big stitch, or you've got that as quite a small stitch, haven't you?
It's actually the largest stitch on my machine. This is the basting stitch. This is on 4.
Oh, is it? Oh, beg your
And that,
pardon. Right, so
yeah,
that makes complete
it
sense
might
because you
look,
want to be able to pull it, don't
yeah,
you?
yeah, you
Yeah.
want to be able to pull it in.
Okay.
Now you can pull too much in.
Yeah.
And if you pull too much in, you might have to let a little bit of that out, you see, in order for that to lie flat. Okay, so that's that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is, now having that done, is this point.
Okay.
And I would suggest that, I'm not sure what the pattern says. We don't know what the pattern says. Let's take that out. Let's take that out so we can get this flatter. But what I would do here, I've sewn around here. I would sew down almost to the point, and I would take one stitch across.
Or just pull it towards
So
you again. You're
it's
just
not that
slightly
you're
out of
clipping
camera.
into a point.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, okay.
say that
So
again.
you'd
You'll
sew
sew
down to
down
your
one of those
point.
lines.
Sew down one of these lines, and then when you get almost to the point, just take a stitch across. Never mind about the point. Don't put that much pressure on you. Just go down just before the point. I can do that if you wanted. I can sew that on the machine. Take a stitch across, and then let's do that, okay?
Oh, wow. So I'm just
That.
going to draw it on the screen. So you'd sew down, but don't do the point,
Okay.
a stitch across, and then go back up.
That's right. So I'm going to come down almost to the point, and then I'm going to sew a stitch across.
So you're going to pivot, needle down.
Pivot, needle down. Then I'm going to sew across one stitch, and then come back up. Okay. Now I hope you can see that little stitch across. So then when you have to clip to turn, can you see what I'm doing, Stuart?
Yep.
And you can just inch down, and you don't have that pressure
No.
clipping into a point, okay? So then when you have to turn your facing, now I saw some of them, we might go back to the stills, because I saw some of them that were quite rounded on the end, and they might have done that, maybe taken too many stitches across.
Oh, right. Well,
we'll
have a look.
So that's what you want. Yeah, that's what you want. You want to take the pressure off of yourself when you're clipping into a curve. Into a point. Take the pressure off by just going over one stitch. Okay?
Brilliant.
And that's all I have to say about godets and tricky corners and tricky points and things.
Let's go back and have a look then at that round and have a look at the next. Yeah. So where was that? That was pattern. It's definitely a point on that pattern piece there, isn't it?
It's a point, and it falls on a seam, which is very tricky.
Zoom that in. That's as much as I can zoom in. It does fall on that seam, doesn't it?
And it falls on the seam. Yeah.
Well, let's go and have a look at
some of the finishes.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of the others. So let's go to. So let's cover that up. Let's go to Mia. We haven't looked at that one. Oh, that's a side-on picture. That's not a very good one. Yeah. Let's go back to Matthew. Ah, yes, there you go.
You see, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's decided to make it as a square.
Yeah.
Instead of a point.
Visible. Yeah.
Yep. You got it.
And I suppose that stops it being an issue then, doesn't it? I suppose. Maria. Oh.
That's more of a point.
Yeah.
That's better.
Lizzie.
And look at how low the pockets are on that one.
Is that a
Yeah.
close up of Lizzie here?
Lizzie
Oh no,
actually, she did a good job on her
it
point.
does.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it was
And
Lizzie's
none of the
pockets, sadly, that let her down. Because, bless her, she won't
yeah.
mind us talking about that. But if you look at Lizzie's pockets, I think she had one. That's not a very good angle. You can see it there, one there, and then the other one is down
And
here.
then I can see, yeah, and again, it's just how you mark things.
Yeah,
And the pattern should have been, explicit on that. But the point looks good, and it does fall on the
doesn't it?
seam. And I didn't hear that talked about at all.
No, no. Well, that it could have been, as we know, it's probably dropped out in the edits because I think the obvious ones that were clearly were going to make interesting telly for us all were whose pockets were in the right place. Because this one looks like it's equal, like Patrick wanted there, and then this one looks like
Yes,
it's per pattern on the
it's
picture
per
where it's just
pattern. Yes,
just under the armhole.
yeah. It would
So
have
that's
been
that.
nice in the beginning where they say where the question is raised, what's likely to trip them up? That clear point on the
Yeah.
front would have been an interesting thing to talk about.
That's Lauren's.
Yep.
And actually, yes, you're. I wonder how you would, because in that time they haven't got time to work out all these strips to be sewn together for it to be perfectly in the middle there. They haven't got time to do that like the pattern has got, have they?
No, and they're being what's leading is the width of the cloth.
Yeah,
Because they've got a roll of cloth and it's what 8 inches, what 6, 7, 8 inches wide. So there's four. Yeah.
it
So
almost
that's what
worked
they're.
there for Fauve, didn't it? The V, and then you've got this red stripe.
Yeah. So placement is important, isn't it?
And let's go to
Mm.
Asthma because Asthma won this round. That's a very crisp V, isn't it?
Very good. And as we said before, it lies right in the middle of that stripe. It's
And
beautifully done.
actually, it almost looks like that's your one stitch across, doesn't it?
Yes.
Can
Yeah.
you see that?
Yes. So
And as you
I
say,
don't
she's
know how. Yeah.
go on.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, it was just a laid on facing, and you only had that one run at it.
Yeah,
You put the facing on top, sewed around, and then flipped it
yeah.
into the inside. And then I think you had to top stitch around it. I think I can see
Oh yeah.
down the
Go
top.
back to that one. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Top stitch.
So
Uh,
I think they top stitched the facing back down. I'm not
yes.
sure about that, so that it
No.
showed on the outside. I can see blue stitching. Yeah, I can
Can you?
see a blue
Oh.
stitching line going across the red and across the white
Oh, you've got good eyes. Where?
into, yeah, into the shoulder seam. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so
Oh.
and then that's the preparation of that facing, which was so tricky, and
Oh
I
yes.
saw some
Yeah.
of them really struggling to press it. But
And the
no, tough
pockets.
challenge. They did well.
Yes, yeah, and that pocket idea that almost similar to a placket, isn't it? Where you're cutting in and then pushing it through and round.
Yeah,
A much more of a faff way of doing a pocket.
yeah, just a clumsy way of doing a
Yeah,
pocket, I think. So then the facing your lining fabric shows on the outside, and if you don't get a nice oval, it looks wrong, doesn't it?
yeah.
It's not crisp. It's not a clean finish.
Let's see if we can
But
get
I
find another.
suppose because it being timed,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's not pretty, is it? It's.
but I presume that's in
But anyway,
keeping
that's
with the pattern design of how they are made originally, isn't it?
mhm.
These batakaris,
Yeah.
I suppose. Oh, let's get rid of asthma. Sorry,
Yes.
asthma.
But again, on the pattern, it looks like it's a very controlled slit. But in the make, it looks like an oval,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it gapes a little bit. It doesn't
Yeah.
have that posture.
But as we
But
said right from the
tough
beginning,
challenge, not
a
a lot of
difficult
time,
challenge. Yeah.
very well.
so many skills being needed in that short time to make that. And as I said, this was a simplified batakari, is that how you pronounce it? And I'm thinking, well, that's simplified, that's going to be quite hard, but it was so refreshing to see something different, and almost, as you say, a level playing field for them all, because I can't imagine how many of them have made them in their time as sewers. So wonderful.
No, just
Thank you for that, Carol. That was great. And it worked a treat, especially with the Go Days. Love that. I think we're all going to go and put Go Days in, aren't we now? We want to see your pictures if you do. I think I'll ask my mum about that and her flares of the 70s.
If anyone's got some vintage jeans with the insets in, that would be great to see as well.
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
To try to look some of that. Yeah.
Right, let's just finish off then. We've already talked about the pattern challenge, so we'll just go on to look at the transformation challenge and then the made to measures, which were fabulous. So let's have a quick look at the pattern challenge. Would you believe you called it, Carol? We were talking about this last week, weren't we?
No. So it's such a lovely skill to have, isn't it? I mean, if you don't have a flat pattern and if you've got something in mind, you can always, just throw some fabric at the mannequin and get yourself, situated with what you think you want to make, and then you can go from there to a pattern.
Absolutely. So they had to drape. That's all it was. It was that simple. With the lovely tie-dye fabric, Azure, they had to do some draping. And I think just some of them, I almost felt that they just thought, well, we can't just drape fabric on a mannequin. So therefore, they went a bit more into the sewing to make an actual garment. But clearly, the ones that were more successful were the ones that just draped. So let's have a look at them, refresh your memories there. But look at some of that from draping the fabric. We can see what you've got behind you there, Carol. Look, this is you draping. You've done some more, I see.
This is me. I mean, I have 1.5 meters of calico, and I thought, what would I do if I had a minute? I mean, this is less than a minute. So this is a 90-degree angle, just tucked behind, and you get all this in a what's 180? It's a and then I just made a rosette. So take some of the fabric, and scrunch it all up, and then just wind it around. And there it is. So and then you've got this lovely set of folds here.
Yeah.
And that's draped. That's nicely draped. And then you can just take the rest of this and put it around the back. So there's your dress. That's it. Took a minute.
And they had 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And look what they've done. And as I say, we can see the ones that are more successful, according to the brief, that are more draped. And yes, it was apparent right from the beginning that Lizzie's was going to be a standout one, wasn't it? Just look at that.
That's superb. And you can see how she just gathered up fabric and put it into a shape and used the points, the shoulder, the bust, the hip. So she's taken those points that she wants to accentuate and then just drew the fabric in. But behind all that, you can see that lovely silhouette, can't you?
Brilliant.
And under the arm, you can just kind of see the mannequin underneath it.
And she had some lovely pleats there, really tight, crisp pleats there, didn't she?
Yes.
And then, as you say there, the billowing stuff, like what you just showed on your one. How lovely that was.
That's it. And you can see that great arc from the waist to the sort of the knee level. You can see that great arc from the waist right to the knee. There it is. There it is, you see.
But also this idea of structure. You've got this balancing here, then you've got this bigger bit here, and then in thirds too, if you were going to put it into, there's the half line. It just works a treat from a design point of view, doesn't it?
Well, it's so pleasing to the eye because it is kind of using the golden ratio, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's using those really pleasurable rectangular shapes. No, she's really got that. That was stunning.
She came first, but another one that was clearly up there with the brief of draping was Lauren. Look at that.
Yeah, really beautiful. Yes,
again
and
with
with
the
some cutouts that add
yes, yeah,
to the
yeah.
the drama
And
of the garments.
and look at this. She's got like those pleats there from twisting the
Yeah,
fabric underneath, hasn't she?
that's it. Yeah, I mean, twisting is really interesting. To get a different to control it with a twist, and then using it to come back out
Mm,
and the make more volume. But she's got some beautiful lines in the skirt
absolutely. So
with pulling the fabric up.
really well done. But then there was some, and we've talked. We'll talk about Tony just because he's his style is very much. I gather he's a great maker. He'll follow a pattern and he'll make, and he's got the tape measure around his neck. He'll be precise and he'll plan it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is classic, I think, from what I feel about Tony. It's not so much
Yeah.
creative as in the draping and the zhuzhing and a bit of this, bit of that. This is pure precision, but not
It's
so
beautiful.
draping. It's a
Yeah.
great end garment, isn't it? But not so much
Yeah.
draping.
Yeah. I kind of got caught up in this one because we were watching him sew it as well.
Yeah.
And, we saw how he was building this all up, but clearly it follows the mannequin quite strictly, doesn't it?
And I think we said this before about the transformation round. You either are, as a sewer, you either are a creative type or I'm going to follow that instruction, I'm going to read the pattern. And I don't know how many people are either or. And so I think some people must hate the transformation challenge or really panic about it because it's so free, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And I think some of the comments I heard was, oh, this person, whoever made this, had a lot of fun. Um, this is very,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
those outside the box comments which gave the results that the judges wanted. They wanted to see, you know, um, they didn't want to see conventional sewing
No.
lines or style
No.
lines. They wanted
No.
to see the fabric just, used in one big piece
Yes.
and just almost,
It,
a few pins and it was all that was
absolutely.
needed.
And that's having that's the draping skill, isn't it? But I
Mm.
can understand how scary that must be for some. So therefore, I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and sew this down, and then cut and sew this down. But it's a skill in itself, for sure.
It's a skill. Yeah, it's a skill in seeing a sculpture and trying to work out how that fabric will behave and twist and turn and fold and pleat and to make that sculpture.
Absolutely wonderful. Let's go to the
Mm.
made to measure because some of these I was just in awe of. So they had to make a boo boo. I'd never heard of one of these before. Didn't know what it was. So
No, either
it was a
either have
great
I.
episode learning about it. But the lady, I've forgotten her name now, the guest judge, was very much saying she would like to see them traditional, big and breezy. And I think it all
Yeah.
comes down to the brief, how some had got the brief and how some hadn't. And I know Esme said, I want story too. So perhaps some went more story based and some went more big and
Mm.
breezy and some then forgot the big and breezy.
Yeah.
Asma here, we'll start with Asma. Did she have more structure to it than perhaps she could have done? There was some big and breezy aspects to it, but she was using
There
a lot
was
of
a
her own
yeah.
culture though as well, I think, wasn't she?
I think she was doing something that reminded her of her traditional garment,
Yeah.
and so she followed that. But she had a lot of complicated elements to this, and having a lace overlay, which then you have to control, and you're overlaying that onto your main fabric, and it's the two act differently together. So she was quite right to baste it all. But and in this challenge, and in several more more with not with the draping, but with this one and in previous episodes, I I just can't believe that I'm seeing people on the floor, cutting things on the floor, making the
Yeah.
preparations on the floor. And I thought, this don't they supply decent tables so that because when you're
Clearly
on the
not.
floor and you're basting on the floor,
Yeah.
that's very tricky to do, and other competitions, they give everyone an oven, don't they? They give
Yeah.
everyone a working surface.
It,
What's the I
It's
really
right.
feel for the contestants.
You would feel really, if you were going on a sewing show, wouldn't it be nice to be spoilt and be in a wonderful huge room where you've got tailor tables, space for every person to roll out their fabric, and it would actually be really enjoyable for us to watch as well, wouldn't it? All these cool
Well,
things and proper
I mean,
studio.
yeah, not only enjoyable, but essential. That if you're going to make a long garment, a cocktail
Yeah.
dress, you need 2 meters at least to cut this thing out. And I think it was just pitiful seeing them on the floor. I mean, enough said. I won't go on about it, but this was
um,
tricky, especially for Asma basting
yes.
lace on.
Yeah, I mean, so many skills there. But look
Mm,
at that, just that.
yeah.
Because what did she have? Satin, and then the georgette, and then the lace on top of the satin.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing,
A
amazing.
lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot going on,
His
and a lot
fauve,
of risks.
his
Yes,
fauve.
this one is beautiful. Yep.
Uh, you could just. I think the models loved coming down the catwalk with this, having their hands. I would have loved that.
The
And is
models
this
are doing a fantastic
a
job.
good mix here with the big and breezy, but a little bit of shaping in there too, and a bit of fit,
Yes, that's very clever because it looks like the waistband disappears
doesn't it?
into the back of the garment, and then
Yeah,
it's tied on the body. So a lot of people chose this caftan idea where there's no shoulder seams. It's just you have a cutout for the neck, and it just drapes, maybe a center back closure or something, but no shoulder seams. It's just it falls over these arms. When they hold their
lovely.
arms out,
Yeah,
you get the
wonderful.
whole width of the dress. It's
Um,
glorious.
Lauren,
Yeah, a tricky combination here of the
yeah,
feathers and the print that is maybe a little bit too big, and maybe the overall volume is not as great
yeah,
as it could
yeah.
have been.
And then we've got. Oh, that was Patrick noted that, and I can understand that. Should the neck have been uh, all the way up and then into a point?
Yeah, perhaps, but she maybe loved the trim, and that's all she
Indeed,
had, or
absolutely, yeah,
yeah, or all the time she had. You know,
yeah, very much so. Then we've got Lizzie. Oh,
look at that
well,
magic.
it was stunning right from the beginning when she was telling the story. But for me as a patchworker, I just these points, you know,
Yeah,
because she had to make the fabric first. It wasn't like she'd got 3 meters of satin and as you said, poncho style up and over kimono style.
yeah.
It's she had to put that together, didn't she?
Mm. Well, it was such a clever, simple design that it had all the breeziness of that
Yeah,
caftan, but then that central drawstring, so that it gave it really put to life all
yeah,
the basic shapes that she was using. They were just, they were rectangles, but when
yeah.
they draw them up in the middle, then all those shapes start to move, don't they? So it's really, really clever. And I love the mix of color, the
Oh,
orange and the
yeah.
gold and the khaki and that really light dove gray. They all work together so beautifully.
And I was
Mm.
so pleased with Lizzie because the first round, I think, where did she come on the first round? She was eighth out of 10. And I said last week, oh, she was my one to watch. There was just something about her that I connected with on episode 1 and 2. And I thought, yeah, she's going to be one to, I think she's going to, she's got some skills there. She's going to be all the way. So I was nervous at first, but then she got this and yeah, just
Well, she seems
wonderful.
very clear with her ideas, and they
Mm.
are bold, and she's not afraid of color. And I think I can sense in week 3 that her confidence is setting in
Absolutely.
with her.
Yeah. Yeah. And comfortable perhaps with the sewing room and being on telly
Mm.
too. It's all that's got to be playing
Yeah,
too, don't you think?
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Maria. Oh, let's get rid of Lizzie. Thanks, Lizzie. That's so everyone can remember who's who. There we go. Uh, the fabric was wonderful. I loved that. It just, you could just imagine,
I I
you
was
know, on the
watching her
beach
sew this, and
after with a
yeah, I watching this being made, I had great hope for this garment, and I thought, oh, it's just gonna take flight. It's gonna
yeah.
be fantastic. And I suppose, and I liked the purple trim.
Mm.
I really liked the edge trim that she used. I got a little bit confused with the silver, but I didn't
Yeah, with
mind that.
that and
I
that.
thought
Yeah,
I thought this was a really enchanting garment. I think it
absolutely.
does. She just had trouble finishing things on time, and I think she deserved a bit more praise for being able to handle that cloth and
Absolutely.
apply what looked like a mile of trim.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it
I
was going
think
to be
that,
close between her and Fauve, but I
yeah,
thought this might have saved her. It was too close to call really, because there wasn't
yeah,
an end garment of the made to measures that was appalling from anyone. They were
yeah.
all
No,
very
they
well
were all
done.
good.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Um
Um,
we've got
it's
Matt's.
a shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Let's
is
take,
fun.
let's get rid of Maria and then Matthew.
Yeah.
It was fun, wasn't it? And I think
Yeah.
it worked.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It unlike anything else, right?
Yeah.
I like the use of the combination of fabrics. I liked where he put his cross brace there. Um,
Absolutely. I was saying to Ting earlier, I think it was a nice little nod to his story of what he likes, which ultimately we should all do as sewers, um, and discreet. But there, Patrick was saying he would have preferred it up here. And I'm like, that would have gone right across me
yeah.
Adam's apple. And I think not only been a bit uncomfortable, but would it have not then overpowered that V? And you would have lost that
Yeah.
lovely openness of the V, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I agree with you completely because if you look at the back neck, that that facing is standing away. It's almost like what you see in kimono making, where the neck is completely exposed because you've got that stand-up collar. And let that be a feature, and don't confuse it with
Yeah,
this cross thing
absolutely.
that's too
Yes.
close. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's beautifully
Yeah.
done, just how
Because
he designed it,
because
and
is that
powerful but really striking, but like you say, subtle use of the contrast trim.
am I right in saying I can't remember, but I thought when we've chatted before about the Japanese kimono, is there something about the neck and the
Hmm.
idea of it being the neck exposed because it's I don't want to say sexy. Is it, maybe
it's
it is.
it's the set it is it's the
It,
most alluring part
yeah,
of the woman because they're
yeah,
quite wrapped up with the kimono and all the underdressing and then the obi, and it's kind of it's a very flat presentation when it's all put together, but then that stand up away from the neck, and you
yeah.
the lovely curve, and as the neck thickens into the body there, and
I
that
thought so.
is seen as the most alluring part
Yeah, and that's what we've
of
got mirrored
physical.
here. So yes, well done,
Yeah,
Matthew.
yeah, I like that. That needed to be really noticed and not just rushed into
Yes,
a comment of,
yeah,
oh, that should have been raised up a little bit. No, no,
indeed,
take your
indeed.
time and really look at things.
Thank you, Matthew. And then we have Mia.
Again, very straightforward in
Yeah,
design, an off the shoulder, elasticated neck, and her fabric speaks beautifully. And then that
absolutely.
ruffle
Yeah,
again, we're talking about the golden ratio. This set of
yeah.
proportions,
That lower
it's
third.
that's
Yeah,
it. It worked beautifully, and
yeah.
it's a bit of metallic in her
It's
fabric.
beautiful.
It looks like it, so it really caught the light.
Yeah,
Good placement where she's got the major motif right down the center front,
yeah, yeah.
and it just loads of
Oh,
volume.
that's Mia. Let's
Yeah,
put her on so
that
we
did
know.
well in the judging, didn't it?
Did
Did
it
Mia
did? They liked it. Well, that's how it
yeah,
came across for sure. But there's everything about it, even the headpiece and the
yeah.
makeup. It just yeah, it's all lovely. She's doing really well, Mia, really well, and she's only been sewing for like the last 2 years. Isn't that wonderful?
That is wonderful. But I think she has the skills in her hands, doesn't she? Do crocheting and
Absolutely, absolutely.
other
Good
crafts.
point.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
she.
well
Yeah.
remembered. A couple more to look at because they're all so nice to look at. Tony here, Tony Beanie, Tony R. Um,
Yeah. Tony
it
Beanie.
was it a bit too fitted? Did it lose the brief again of big and breezy? But there was some flowing
Perhaps.
there. They did flow, but
I really love this. Um, it didn't. I mean, he has a very bold print, so
yeah,
um, the ruffle. If it was bigger, it might have looked part of the print. I
yeah,
actually think the ruffle was well done in scale to be noticed, right? Because if it was it's very swirly design.
yeah.
Um, I really love this. I love the way it slipped off one shoulder because
Mm.
it had a very generous neck. And to me, I just love the way he chose the fabric and what he did with it. Okay, it was a bit more contained, but I really like this
Mm.
piece.
And then Tony W. Well, I would have had this walking down that catwalk, and I would have had my hands. I would have just pranced down like that. There is something
Yeah.
quite, you're going to a wonderful evening event. This would have just looked stunning. I would have liked a little bit more glitter and sequins on it, though.
Well, I agree with you there. I think, once again, here is a perfect example. You take a very straightforward, simple pattern and you apply a really virtuoso cloth to it, and you
Yeah,
can't lose.
yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Uh, Great. Well done, Tony. Last one, Vicky. Where's Vicky there?
Yeah.
This was very much Vicky. We can see her style there for sure. Um, Very modern, more of her rather than the big and breezy, voluminous compared to the other ones that we've
Yeah.
seen
Yes.
and the classic
Softer,
boo
yeah, a
boos that we've
softer
seen.
color scheme, and
Yeah,
showing off her technique. She chose the wow factor was in the preparation of her seams and the placement and the pattern matching. So it was a softer offering, not as glitzy as
no,
the others, but very special
but
for how
still a
she
wonderful
decided to
make.
put her
Yeah,
story into
yeah.
it.
And this is where I got to the end, and I was thinking, I don't know who's going to go because actually the ones who were in trouble, which were Fauve, we had Fauve, and then we had Maria. I was like, wow, they've still had good made to measures. Who's going to go? So it was nail biting from our point of view. But before they went, before we knew, we had to have a garment of the week, and it wasn't surprising that the garment of the week was Lizzie.
Just
Incredible,
beautiful,
really.
just so
Yeah.
beautiful. And
But
again, the caftan, she followed that brief, but then just did something really interesting with it by introducing that gather line.
But sadly, we had to say goodbye to Maria. Yes, I think it was the transformation challenge because she was last. But I suppose it was her made to measure. I think there was a pucker or a pleat on the back of her made to measure as well. But someone has to go. But it
Yeah.
wasn't an obvious person by all means. So it was it was like ooh. So there we are.
Well, all the challenges were very demanding,
Mm, very
and
much so.
so it was harder, wasn't it? Because there was hardly anybody that nailed the first challenge.
Yeah.
The second challenge was very demanding, and then the third one was just controlling miles of fabric. So, like you say, it was hard to
Yeah.
tell how
But
the scoring went.
but from that point of view, it made good telly because we didn't know who was going to go. It could have been anyone. It wasn't clear cut. So it did make good entertainment, and it was refreshing. It was different, lovely to have a different judge. So I think overall, it was a great episode and so many skills on offer. As for next week, I know some of us aren't lovers of reduce, reuse and recycle, but they're going to get, I think, crochet items or crochet blankets or knitted blankets, and they're going to be cutting it up into something. That's going to be interesting, isn't it?
That sure is, yeah.
How are you going to deal with
absolutely.
all those loose stitches of knitting or crochet?
I know. I think you're gonna have to fix your pattern. You're gonna have to fix all those threads that are all knit together before you cut.
It will be
We'll
interesting to see. As always, it's been a pleasure, Carol. You've enlightened us on so many things, especially the good old Godet. We want to, if you're still watching, we want pictures or we want comments. Tell us about your memories of Godets, of who you saw in jeans with added Godets, or making them. Did you put one into a garment to be a bit more hip? It would be lovely to know, wouldn't it?
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Thanks,
Send
Carol.
pictures.
It's been brilliant, and I shall look forward to seeing you next Thursday when we record, and for everyone to watch. Thanks for watching All Gathered Up. See you for week 4, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle week.
Okay.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.